"Handcuff her!" A rough voice rang out, breaking the silence of the park. Everything happened so quickly, like a sudden storm. She had done nothing wrong. She was simply taking a walk, enjoying the fresh air of the weekend morning. But why did the police act like this? Why this brutality? The crowd standing around was silent, only whispers and curious glances. The girl, wearing a simple t-shirt, looked like just an ordinary person. But in that moment, she became the center of attention, and all eyes were on her. The police did not explain, just gave orders and acted. The woman, though handcuffed, did not panic. It all happened so quickly. She only had time to vaguely realize that something was strange. The brutality of this handling, it seemed, was not the first time. Who is she? Why is she being treated like this? It was a question everyone asked themselves, but no one had an answer. She was not a criminal, nor was she a vagrant. So why? And then, in that brief moment, a woman in the crowd screamed, and light shone on an unbelievable truth. Is this just a misunderstanding, or is there another secret hidden behind it? Let's continue to follow the story. The morning sky was clear. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the treetops, illuminating the ground with shimmering spots of light swaying in the wind. The large park had gravel paths winding through lush green lawns, stone benches placed along the paths, and a few people jogging, enjoying the fresh air. The gentle scent of flowers mixed with the cool breeze of the early morning, creating a peaceful, quiet scene. Olivia walked slowly down the familiar path, her sneakers lightly touching the ground, making a steady sound with each step. She wore a simple t-shirt and tight black leggings, which accentuated her well-proportioned figure. She took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs, then slowly exhaled. This was a rare moment for her to relax after a long week of work. As a federal court judge, her schedule was packed with court hearings, important meetings, and landmark decisions. The job required her to keep a cool head, be alert, and make absolute decisions. But here, in the middle of this peaceful park, she just wanted to be an ordinary woman, enjoying a carefree morning. Buying a house in this area was a big decision for her. The neighborhood was predominantly white, upper-middle class, with quiet streets and luxurious villas surrounded by lush gardens. Olivia didn't choose this place to prove anything. She simply wanted a comfortable living space, a place where she could relax after a long, stressful day. But from the moment she moved in, she felt the difference. The judgmental looks from her neighbors, the forced smiles, the polite but insincere greetings. She was no stranger to this feeling. As a successful black woman in a society that still had implicit prejudices, she was used to such looks. It was a beautiful morning, and she decided to take a walk in the park near her house to enjoy some peace. The park was quite large, with small paths leading into more wooded areas and a small lake in the center. As she entered the park, she immediately realized that her presence was not entirely welcome. Eyes passed over her, briefly, but enough to register. An elderly couple sat on a bench, the woman squeezing her husband's hand as she passed. A middle-aged jogger slowed his pace, glancing her up and down before continuing on. In the distance, a young mother pushing a stroller turned away, as if she were an unwanted presence. Olivia was no stranger to such reactions. She had seen them all her life, from her childhood in a poor neighborhood, to her law school days, to her rise to become one of the most distinguished lawyers in her field. She was used to being judged solely on the color of her skin. But no matter how strong she was, those looks still made her feel out of place. She walked on, trying not to pay attention to what was going on around her. But just a few meters away, a middle-aged woman stood on the sidewalk, her eyes fixed on her with suspicion. This woman, Lisa Whitmore, had lived in this neighborhood for nearly 20 years, and she believed she knew everyone who lived here. Lisa didn't recognize Olivia. She had never seen the black woman before, and it made her feel uncomfortable. Someone like Olivia didn't appear in this area often. A thought flashed through Lisa's mind. What is she doing here? Does she not belong here? It didn't take long for Lisa to pull out her phone. She dialed 911, her voice low but still full of certainty. "Hello, I want to report a suspicious person," Lisa said quickly, her eyes never leaving Olivia. On the other end of the line, the operator asked again, "What is that person doing?" "She was wandering around the park. She didn't seem to belong here," Lisa replied, trying to sound as objective as possible. The operator continued to ask, "Did that person act suspiciously?" Lisa hesitated for a moment, then said, "She kept walking back and forth, looking around." "I don't know, but the police had better come and check." After hanging up, Lisa was still standing there, watching Olivia. Little did she know that, because of her one unfounded call, a series of terrible events were about to happen. And Olivia, still walking slowly on the gravel road, still immersed in her thoughts, unaware that a few streets away, a police car had just received a call from the operator. "Report of suspicious person in Riverwood Park. Subject is black female, wearing gray t-shirt, black leggings. Request nearest unit to check." In the car, officers Daniel Harper and Mike Reynolds looked at each other, excitement evident on their faces. Both had patrolled the area for years, and they knew this was a nearly entirely white neighborhood. A black man showing up for no apparent reason? That immediately raised their suspicions. Daniel Harper was a tall man with short hair and piercing eyes that were always imposing and uncompromising. He believed in using force to maintain order and never hid his suspicion of people of color whom he viewed as outsiders. Mike Reynolds was a little younger, but his demeanor was similar to Harper's. He had a rugged face, a nonchalant air, and tended to be more aggressive than his teammate. Both had a history of discrimination against people of color, but were never punished for it, simply because there was no hard evidence. The police car let out a short siren as it drove into the park. Several passers-by turned to look, curious as to what was going on. Olivia heard the siren too, but didn't think much of it. It was only when she saw two police officers getting out of the car and walking straight toward her with a stern expression that she sensed something was wrong. Harper stepped forward, his voice gruff. "Stop right now. Put your hands up so we can see." Olivia paused. She frowned, confused by the aggressive approach. But she didn't panic. Over her years in the business, she was used to situations where people were deliberately trying to pressure her. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked, her voice calm but not without annoyance. Reynolds stood beside Harper, arms crossed, looking her up and down with a critical eye. Harper took a step forward, glaring at Olivia as if she were a threat. "Show your identification immediately." Olivia frowned. She hadn't done anything wrong. This was a public park, and she had every right to walk here as anyone else. "What is the reason?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Harper smirked, his demeanor full of condescension. "We received a report of a suspicious person wandering around this park. Where are the papers?" A simmering anger rose inside Olivia. A black woman walking in the park being seen as suspicious. She was used to this kind of discrimination, but that didn't mean she would just accept it. "Suspicious in what sense? I was just taking a walk." "Who reported me?" Olivia asked, looking straight at Harper. Reynolds crossed his arms and sneered. "That's none of your business. You have two choices. Produce your papers immediately, or we'll take you to the station for questioning." Olivia squeezed his hand, but kept her voice calm. "I have a right to know why. You are stopping a citizen without any evidence or legal basis." Harper narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased. "We don't need to explain to you. This is a legitimate investigation." Olivia felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her emotions in check. She knew that in situations like this, words could be the most powerful weapon. She slowly reached into her pocket, took out her phone, and started recording. "I will record this conversation. If you continue to harass me without good reason, I will sue." As soon as he saw Olivia holding the phone, Harper became more aggressive. He lunged forward, grabbed her arm, and yanked it away. "You just made a big mistake, bitch," Harper hissed, eyes flashing with anger. Reynolds quickly backed up his teammates, pinning Olivia's arms behind her back. They didn't give her a chance to react, didn't give her a chance to explain. In a flash, Olivia found herself pushed to the ground, her knees hitting the gravel hard. "What are you doing? Let me go!" she shouted, trying to keep her composure but unable to hide her anger. "You are resisting an officer," Reynolds said coldly as Harper pulled out the handcuffs and tightened his grip on her wrists. Harper pulled Olivia to her feet, but his hand still held her shoulders as if she were a dangerous criminal. "I will sue you. This is an abuse of power," Olivia said, her voice filled with authority. Harper chuckled, looking down at her. "Sue me and see who believes you." Reynolds laughed along, shaking his head. "Probably some other vagabond who thinks he's important." Olivia gritted her teeth, feeling the blood rush to her face. She knew she couldn't change these people's minds overnight, but they had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake of their careers. The atmosphere in the park suddenly became heavier, more tense than ever. A few people stopped to watch, but no one dared to come closer. Some looked at Olivia with concern, but others just stood there, arms crossed, as if they were watching a perfectly reasonable scene. A black man being handcuffed by the police. Olivia felt the handcuffs tighten around her wrists, leaving a cold, uncomfortable feeling. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but anger was rising inside her. Not at the physical pain, but at the humiliation, the blatant injustice she was being subjected to, right where she should have had the right to relax like everyone else. Harper and Reynolds were still standing there, eyes filled with satisfaction, believing that they had just completed their mission. Harper shook his head, smirking. "Don't make a fuss, girl. We're just doing our job." Reynolds nodded, his voice still cold. "Probably another homeless person or thief lurking around here. You think you can threaten us with a phone?" Olivia gritted her teeth, her eyes cold as she stared straight at the two policemen. She didn't scream or struggle, but the anger in her voice was more powerful than any action. "You are making a serious mistake." But Harper just shrugged, seemingly unconcerned. "Don't take that tone with me. Who do you think you are?" Just then, a panicked voice rang out from the crowd. "Stop! Do you know who she is?" Everyone turned, including Harper and Reynolds. A white woman in her 50s was running toward them. She had short blonde hair and a worried expression on her face. It was Margaret Jensen, a neighbor who lived nearby. She gasped, eyes wide with shock at the sight of Olivia in handcuffs. "My God, this is Judge Olivia Carter! Do you guys know what you just did?" The words exploded like a bomb in the air. Harper and Reynolds froze. Their eyes widened, their faces paled as they recognized the name they had just heard. Chief Justice Olivia Carter. No way. Harper almost immediately took a step back, his mouth moving but no words coming out. Reynolds stood frozen, his hands still on the cuffs, but his whole body tensed. The name was familiar to them. One of the most influential judges in the justice system, a man who regularly handed down important rulings in major cases. And they just handcuffed her. The people around started whispering. Some people's eyes turned from curious to surprised. "What? The Chief Justice? They just handcuffed a high-ranking official?" Harper felt a cold sweat run down his spine. He turned to Reynolds, as if seeking an excuse, but Reynolds was also stunned, speechless. Olivia stood there, her sharp eyes fixed on the two policemen. She could see the panic slowly forming on their faces. After a moment, Harper tried to regain his composure. He quickly pulled out the handcuff key and tried to unlock it as quickly as possible, but his hands were shaking so much that it took him 3 tries to unlock it. As the handcuffs fell, Olivia gently rubbed her wrists. The red marks were still clearly visible. She slowly raised her head, looked straight at the two policemen, her voice calm but full of authority. I want you to give a good reason for this action. Harper stuttered, trying to regain her professional tone. We're just following procedure. There was a call reporting a suspicious person. Suspicious person? Olivia interrupted, eyes narrowing. I was walking in the park. Is that why you handcuffed me? Reynolds swallowed, trying to interject. We don't know your identity. If we knew you were the Chief Justice, we certainly wouldn't. So does that mean that if I weren't the Chief Justice, you would still treat me like a criminal? Olivia asked, her voice cold. Neither of them answered immediately. The surrounding air became eerily silent. The surrounding people still stood there, waiting to see what would happen next. Harper tried to keep his voice calm, but his confidence was lacking. Miss Carter, we sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding. We did not mean to be offensive. It was just a mistake. Olivia folded her arms, her eyes never leaving them. Mistaken? You didn't just make a mistake. You abused your power. You handcuffed an innocent citizen, insulted me, and used unnecessary force. I will not let this go. Harper and Reynolds looked at each other, panic evident. They knew this could ruin their careers, and from the determined look in Olivia's eyes, they realized something. She will not let this go. Olivia stood there, staring at the two policemen before her. Her anger did not come through shouting or violent gestures, but through the coldness of her eyes, through the calm but powerful words. Harper and Reynolds had lost all sense of pride. Both were confused, stuttering for an excuse, but every word was meaningless. Around, some people were still holding their phones to record. Olivia didn't waste time arguing with the two policemen. She took a deep breath, then pulled out her phone, dialing the one person she knew would make it all go away. The call rang for only a few seconds before someone picked up. My name is Olivia Carter. I was just unjustly handcuffed by 2 Riverwood police officers. I would like to file a complaint immediately. Her words were clear and sharp. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then the voice of the superior officer rang out, a little confused. Judge Carter? What happened? Olivia recounted the events briefly but thoroughly. She didn't need to emphasize emotion. The facts were self-evident. When she mentioned the names Harper and Reynolds, the officer sucked in a breath, his voice becoming serious. We will consider it immediately, ma'am. I want a formal investigation, and I want to be kept updated, Olivia said, allowing no delay. Harper and Reynolds stood nearby, pale. Harper opened her mouth to say something, then closed it. Olivia saw the worry in their eyes. This could have been handled more gently, right? Harper said, trying to keep his voice calm, but failing to hide his tension. Olivia crossed her arms, raising her eyebrows. What do you mean? I should forget about this and let you two continue to abuse your power over others? Reynolds interrupted, his voice urgent. We really don't know who you are. If we did, we certainly wouldn't. Olivia interrupted, her voice as sharp as a knife. Shut up. You will suffer the consequences of this. Reynolds swallowed, not knowing how to respond. Harper turned away, not daring to look at her. But it doesn't stop there. Just hours after Olivia filed her complaint, an internal investigation was launched. The police department was forced to extract body camera video from 2 police officers at the time of the incident. The video clearly shows. Harper and Reynolds approached Olivia rudely from the start, without giving any reasonable excuse. When Olivia asked for the reason, they did not give a clear answer, but just kept asking for documents. When Olivia took out her phone to record, Harper immediately rushed over and handcuffed her without any warning. Reynolds hurled insults, implying Olivia was a vagrant or a criminal. When Olivia's identity was revealed, both of them immediately changed their attitudes, stuttering an apology. There is no denying it. It is all so clear. The incident was quickly shared on social media. Within hours, it became a hot topic, attracting millions of views and comments. This is a clear demonstration of racism in the police force. They only apologized because they knew she was the Chief Justice. If it was a normal black person, what would have happened? They must be held accountable for this abuse of power. A wave of indignation erupted. Within a day, the incident spread across major media channels. News stations such as CNN, NBC, and the New York Times all reported it. Images of Olivia handcuffed in the middle of the park were broadcast on television. Several programs discussed the incident, inviting experts to analyze it. Civil rights organizations spoke out strongly, demanding justice. This is not just an isolated incident. It reflects a larger problem with how police treat people of color in this society. If a Chief Justice is treated like that, what about ordinary people? Olivia also received many interview requests from media channels. But she kept quiet. She knew that instead of talking too much, she needed to act. And her first action was to make sure the two policemen wouldn't get away with it. This incident is no longer just a mistake of two police officers, but has become a symbol of injustice in the law enforcement system, a clear demonstration of how people of color, regardless of their position in society, can still become victims of racism. Olivia remains closely involved in the police department's internal investigation, refusing to allow any cover-ups to occur. She wants to make sure Harper and Reynolds are held accountable for what they did, not just for herself, but for all people of color who have been treated unfairly and without a voice. Not long after, the police department held an important press conference. The media flocked to the scene, cameras flashing. Everyone was waiting for the official announcement of the incident that had shocked the entire United States. The Riverwood Police Department chief, a middle-aged man with a stern face, stepped up to the podium. He glanced at the crowd before speaking. After a thorough investigation and review of police body camera footage, we have confirmed that officers Daniel Harper and Mike Reynolds engaged in racially discriminatory and abusive conduct while on duty. The whole room fell silent. A second later, the reporters raised their hands to ask questions, but the director continued. Based on the overwhelming evidence, we have decided to immediately terminate Daniel Harper and Mike Reynolds from the Riverwood Police Force. The news made headlines. This was more than just a routine firing. It was a powerful statement that abuses of power, especially racially motivated ones, would not be tolerated. In a corner of the auditorium, Olivia stood silently watching, not surprised. She knew it was the inevitable outcome, but justice did not stop at firing these two. After the police announcement, Olivia received a series of offers from major television stations. She knew that her story could create real change, and she couldn't miss this opportunity. A few days later, Olivia appeared on a live interview show on NBC, where she shared her experience. The audience watched attentively as the host asked, "How does it feel to know that even as a Chief Justice, you are still being treated unfairly just because of the color of your skin?" Olivia took a deep breath before answering. "I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised, but I'm angry." She looked straight into the camera, as if talking to millions of people watching through the screen. "I'm angry because this didn't just happen to me. It happened to countless other people of color. People who didn't have the power to defend themselves. People who didn't have millions of people seeing their stories in the media. I'm lucky to be able to stand here and speak out. But how many people are being treated like this and never being heard?" The host nodded in agreement. "What do you think needs to change to prevent things like this?" Olivia replied without hesitation. "We need a complete overhaul of our justice system. We need more scrutiny of police behavior. We need to take tougher action against those who abuse their power. But most importantly, we need to change the way society thinks about people of color. I don't deserve to be treated like a criminal just because I'm a black woman walking in the park." The room fell silent. Olivia could feel the weight of her words. She knew that what she had just said was more than a statement. It was a call to action. This story is more than just a personal incident. It is a powerful reminder of the dangers of prejudice, of how power can be abused to oppress the less powerful. But it is also a story of hope. Because when the oppressed stand up for justice, when the truth comes to light, change is inevitable. And Olivia Carter is proof of that. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you like this content, please click like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful stories, because tomorrow we will have another meaningful story for you.